Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. It is September 1. I'm looking at my calendar over to the left of me, Mike,
Yeah,
and I can't believe it. Like,
I know.
really? September the 1st? It's Labor
Yes.
Day? That means that means officially I have to put my white pants away because you can't
No,
wear
you don't.
white pants after Labor Day. You realize this, right?
Well, I've heard that, but I mean, come on, in your own place, you can't strut around in a
In
nice pair of
Florida
white pants.
or
Huh?
in my place.
Yeah, you can do it in your place.
Casa de Can, I can wear
Yes,
them.
you can do
Outside,
that.
apparently, I can't. I can't. That's just, I don't
Who
know.
comes
It's
up
a
with these
fashion rule.
things?
Maybe people can comment on that as we
I don't
welcome
know.
you in to another edition of
Yes.
Elevating You, Reaching Your Peak. Kraig, Kann, that's me. Mike Mooney, that's him.
Good
And
morning.
nice hat, by the way. Very well
Thank you.
done. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's good. And I'm sporting my Missouri Tiger logo today because MIZ and Louisiana Tech tonight, kicking off the college football season. I have been waiting for, forget my team for a second. There's a lot of big games this week. We got Ohio State and Notre Dame. We got, I don't know, LSU's playing somebody pretty good. I can't remember who that is. Georgia, Oregon. I mean, there's games all over the place. Who's that?
You're not going to get outside, are you? You're going to be like suctioned to that couch, just
No,
surfing.
I'm actually doing a staycation in
Oh,
Orlando this weekend, and I'm looking forward to that. So, but yes,
nice.
tonight I got people coming over. We're going to watch the game.
Good.
Going to be fun today, folks. That we promise you. And let me tell you what the topic is today. Keynotes, assessing our year, that is 2022. Now, that might confuse some of you. You're wait. You and Mike are going to talk about, the fact that you guys speak and you do keynotes. No.
That's what we're going to be talking about. That
Well,
just about no.
not really.
No.
Not really.
We would not we love this community. We would not subject.
I'll get to what we're going to be talking about in just a second. But go ahead. You want some opening thoughts? The floor is yours, pal.
Oh gosh, no, I wasn't trying to open with any thoughts. I don't have many right now, actually. But no, I was just saying that it's when you think about that, the keynotes, right? It is a bit about what we do, but I think the other part of it is breaking up the wording, and there's the key, right? The key elements and looking at your year, right?
Yeah.
And this is a great time to do that because even though it is September 1, holy cow, we still have time in the game, right? There's still time on the clock to see where we are and, where do we want to be and where is that gap in between that? And is there a way that we can get there,
Yeah, very well said. That's exactly what we're thinking about. I mean, yes, last week I was in Atlanta and then I was in North Carolina, and you can tell by my throat that that's kind of what I was doing for a few days. Although it is allergy season again in the state of Florida. So I don't know about you, but I'm struggling with it a little bit. You nailed it, though. Key notes, assessing kind of where you are, where you want to go, which we're going to talk about. And I kind of start with this. And, yes, you're thinking when we say keynotes that somebody's on a stage. I look at it this way. We're all on a stage every day of our career. We're on a stage. We are performing. We are presenting. We are a storyteller. We are, kind of representing our own brand, building our reputation. And so when we're taking stock, if you will, of our year thus far and the keynotes that we might have taken about our year thus far, one of the big things that I start with is kind of assessing who have we influenced this year. What organizations, what people, potentially it's this community by doing Elevating You when we are able to join them. And the other part of it is who has influenced us. So I think influence is a big word that I like to think about on the year as I take stock of it. And then if you've influenced people in the right way, other things will come to you that kind of lead into 2023. Because I always believe opportunities are made or born from how we handle the opportunities that we currently have. So there you go.
Yeah, there's a who is it? Sun Tzu's quote that opportunities multiply as they're seized. So it really is about being not just ready, but being willing to step in. I've been thinking a lot about that, over the last couple weeks, man. And it's this idea that life is really about the intersections, that how often do we find ourselves at an intersection and we don't walk through it, we don't drive through it, we sit there and we just look left and right the whole time, and wait and wait and wait versus going through, because the intersection is where we actually then are connecting with what it is that's going by, the people, the opportunities, right? The stages, the conversations, all of those pieces. And what I love about the influence part that you start there with, Kraig, is typically when we think of our year and assessing it, we jump to the actions, right? We like our list of things. And we were talking about that before the show, friends. I was just telling Kraig, myself personally, I'm at this point in the year where I'm trying to do the same thing. And I'm not going to use the word overwhelmed. I just said I feel like I'm not as focused as I need to be. That's kind of that assessment of, but that's of things, right? That's just activities, which we'll talk about. But I love the fact that we can also assess the year and the impact through the idea of influence, and that we all have that opportunity to influence someone. And it's not always in the big moments of being on a stage. It's often just sort of in those crossing conversations or that phone conversation or that Zoom, and being present, right?
Impact is a good word. And, you were talking about all the things that are around you. I mean, I look to my left, I've got my calendar. I've changed it over, big whiteboard with September, and I write down where I'm traveling to, the speaking engagements, the consulting, the various things. And all of a sudden you fill up your September already. You're looking at it and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got a lot ahead of me. I look to my left and I've got papers and, invoices and different things and business sides of things. And I've got stacks of presentations over here that I'm working on, or, on my desktop, I've got a couple of presentations that I'm building for upcoming talks. So it's very easy to get overwhelmed is the wrong word, as you say. But if you take that, and I'm sure that many of you out there are saying, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this done? Or what do I have? Or all these different things. Actually take a step back, sit back for a second and say, okay, what would I rather have? The stuff all around me that I've got to do, or nothing, and trying to figure out how I'm going to succeed the rest of the year. Going into my office and going into work with the people that I work with, and I don't have any projects to do. Nobody's given me anything to do. I think we'd rather be busy. I think we'd rather be trying to sort it out and trying to make something happen from it than the other way. And I think that is important. So when we talk about influencing people, others influence us as well. So here's the other thing that I want us to think about, Mike, and I'll allow you to jump off on this here in just a second. I want to remind everybody that your questions and comments are welcome, encouraged, right here live on Facebook. And we get a lot of comments from our community. We actually had a couple people comment this morning that they had a doctor's appointment or couldn't join us this morning. That tells me they're engaged. That tells me that that they're sad they're going to miss it, and that's a great thing. But info@kannadvisory.com is a way you can email me and Mike and share thoughts of topics that you'd like us to discuss. But we welcome all of your comments. So that's that. And Mike will share them. You can see he looks up and down. That's what he does. So here you go, folks. Charting results. Okay, I think that's important. And I think we need to take a look at our progress of where we are. So what do I mean by that exactly? What do I mean in key notes for the year? Okay, chart the results. How about the goals that you've already achieved? Write them down. And I do this assessment quite a bit during the year. The impact that was made. And then some of the people, maybe it's an organization, within your own organization, the company that you work for, or the people around you, who's been affected by the work that you've done. And if there's a lot, if that bucket's pretty full, you've had a good year. If you're feeling like I haven't affected a lot of people, I haven't made a big impact, then there's an opportunity to challenge yourself and see if you can go, take the next step. So your thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, I have one word for, when you were saying that about if you've achieved and hit your marks, celebrate. Right?
Yes.
Find time, make time to celebrate the wins. I don't believe that we do that often enough. And the reality is that unfortunately, and how the world unfolds and operates, we don't maybe get the wins as often as we'd like. So when we
Mhm.
do, and that was something in racing that we would, always try to focus on, because if you win on Sunday, well, as soon as victory lane is over, you're racing back to the team plane to fly back, and you go into the next race, and then it's the next winner, and the next, and you're going to miss that opportunity to really embrace it and savor that time in victory lane. And I think we all need to do that and feel good about ourselves,
Mm. Yeah,
as
definitely.
we're accomplishing the things that are in front of us. Hey, just real quick on the side. So David Ogren is on with us,
Oh,
and
good.
he asked if that was a gas can over here. And
Is it? It is,
oh
isn't
yeah,
it?
oh yeah, yeah. It's a Sunoco gas can signed by Dale Jr.
Did you
And
literally steal that right off the track?
I wouldn't say I stole it. I
You
procured it.
borrowed it? You
I
borrowed it?
procured it. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
that's good.
There's a funny story behind that too. I'll tell you sometime, related to Brian Williams. And there's
Wow.
something. Yeah, a
Wow.
little intrigue.
I
Okay.
like the fact that you have all those helmets there. I mean,
Yeah, it's just a few of them.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
That's how, it's like me and my
Well,
50
you and your golf
flags.
flags
Yeah.
and things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all over the place. But anyhow, okay.
Yes.
Here's the other
To
thing that
celebrate.
came to my mind when you were talking about that.
Mhm.
In a race, that you're going fast. I mean, you are going fast. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of us feel like on a day-to-day basis, we are going fast. Talking to somebody this morning, they're like, I'm racing to get to work. And then I'm at work and I'm busy as heck at work. And I barely have time for a lunch break. And I this and I that. In a race, you're taking a pit stop, but that pit stop's a matter of seconds. We're not, nobody's pulling over at Daytona,
Oh, that's
okay,
great.
or
Yep.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway and going, can I get the ham sandwich with cheddar cheese, please, and a
Please.
little bit of mayo on
Yeah.
that, and could you
To
put lettuce and tomato? No,
to
nobody's
go.
doing that,
To go.
huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. It is gas and go, and we're talking like in
it,
5 seconds. So
it's
uh,
it is.
people
Well,
need to stop in the pit stop a little bit longer and celebrate. Take a
so
break.
yeah, man, it's so funny. I literally on my LinkedIn page, if you want to check out a video that I posted this last weekend, I unplugged and went up into the mountains and did a little backpacking trip, a day or so with my son, and then another day or so on my own. And I actually did a video on the importance of pit stops as I was hiking out. And,
The
and,
fact
and the
that you're
reason.
back and on this program, if you went hiking by yourself into the wilderness, is actually a victory.
It's a win. I don't know. My
I'd be
wife might
stuck
say
up
otherwise. I
there.
don't know.
I don't
Kind
know
of,
how to make a fire. I don't know how to. I don't. I'd be lost. Okay, go
you'd
ahead. Sorry.
learn. You'd
Okay.
learn, man. You learn. But
Okay.
I talked about the power of pit stops and the reason why in NASCAR we have them, right?
Hmm.
Which is the time for, yes, the car to get refueled, because the engine needs the fuel to create the horsepower to stay competitive. And more importantly, the car's going to need tires, and the tires are what create the grip, the traction that car needs, and that driver needs to stay on the track when they're hitting corners at 190 miles an hour, and have the
Hmm.
confidence that it'll stick. And then also the driver themselves, they need, again, depending on the um, speed of the pit crew, they get anywhere from 10 to 12 seconds of just quiet for a few minutes,
Hmm.
just 10 seconds to chill. So
Hmm.
no, it's important. And I think it's also a good time, pit stop wise, to assess and figure out what you have achieved and what you can celebrate.
Yeah. Of the things that are on this for
Mhm.
people to look at right now,
Yeah.
I think sure, achieving goals is great. It's great. But
Hmm.
I talk a lot about being able to walk away from the projects that you have,
Hmm.
um, a month in the office, 6 months in the office, 2 years at a job, all of that. What is the impact that you've made? What is
Yeah.
the fingerprint that you've left on not just the organization,
Yeah.
not just the business that you run, right? I mean, David
Yeah.
Ogren is a former PGA Tour professional winner who teaches and makes a huge impact in the game of golf. I've
Yeah.
seen him do it. I know his personality, and it's the people he's affected that to me are the biggest thing.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
when I'm doing a keynote, Mike, one of the things that I cherish, if people come up to you afterwards, whether you're signing books or whatever it is, and they'll say, wow, nobody does a workshop or a talk like you just gave. I've been to a lot of the perfect. That's what I want to hear. And secondly, I always ask people if they're going to post something. I said, I only need you to post one thing. I don't need you to post about me. I don't need you to post about the workshop. I want you to post the one takeaway that you have, the aha moment, if you will, the one thing that resonated with you that you can apply in your career, in your work over the next week, month, whatever, that you took from today. Might not have been something that I said, might have been something that one of your coworkers said when they came up and stood in front of the room, which, it's an interactive talk that I usually do. So I think that impact is big. Takeaways are big. And so if people, my advice to all of you out there is that in a given week, I'm not suggesting you have to journal, but I do think it helps. I do think it helps your mind. I think it helps create focus for the next week. It helps you assess where you've been, where you want to go. What is the one thing from the past week? And it might be a failure. It might be something that went wrong that you can learn from, that you can take and move into the next week, the next month. And people are important. Who have you influenced? Who have you affected? Those things are very important for us.
Well, do you think, it's interesting when you were saying that, I thought maybe you were going in a different direction, but it sparked a thought for me is that, how would, maybe better asked as a question, how would our lives be different? How would our work and engagement or interaction with people be different if we focused on the impact and the influence versus the goal? Could you kind of ladder it differently? Like for me, what motivates me is service and serving. And so when I was in the beginning of the year looking at my business plan, typically you start with, okay, here's a dollar amount that I want to hit in revenue. And I said, you know what? No, I want to flip that around and think about, I want to serve 50 leaders this year, and that became sort of my rallying cry, my goal, for that. And so what I was thinking about when you were saying is like, wow, what would it be like? Okay, it's great to have goals.
Right.
It's great to have goals, but is there a way to attach the goal starting with influence and impact in a positive way, not an ego-driven way, not a look at me way?
Yeah. No, that's what we should be. That's what we should be doing. There's some comments that look like they're coming in. I actually always try to focus on the impact of people, and I start with every talk, every week, every whatever, with the end goal in mind. I start at the end, and what do I want the outcome to be?
Right.
Okay. I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday who called me on a consulting thing. They want to kind of build their brand. They want to go in a different direction. They want to start a podcast. And I said, be intentional. Don't do anything without a purpose. For example, when I started my blog, the purpose of that was to write enough blog posts that ultimately I could pull some of the content to write a book. So my book process was made easier. When I started my podcast, Tracks to Success, I hired a transcription service for every one of the podcasts. Why? So that I had quotes I could pull from the topics that we discussed that I could then use in a blog, or I could use potentially in a book if I was talking about specific topics that were general to everybody that was in the podcast series. So I start with the end goal in mind. And then, all right, I want to achieve this. Hypothetically, we all want to get a standing ovation in life, no matter what we do. I'm just try to picture that. So if that's what we want to do, how do we accomplish that? How do we get that? Well, we do it by creating things, whether it's projects that influence people, goals that we have that affect people. And you don't necessarily want to just talk. You want to make people feel something, emotionally empowered because of what you do. And if we can do that on a day-to-day basis, no matter where we work, those are the things I think that ultimately, make a difference and make people feel something. So as we chart these results, goals achieved are big, the impact made, and then the people affected. And again, folks, we welcome your comments, your questions right here. Put them down on the Facebook page. Show everybody what's going on in your mind. And then as I let you do that, here's the other thing that I want to put before you, Mike, and before our audience here today. And that's the steps that we can take of where we want to go from here. So we talked about this at the very beginning, right? September the 1st. Okay, step one in charting or thinking about where we go. And you're a big action steps guy. You are. I've listened to you talk about this quite a bit. The first step is what's been. Let's look back. You know, in the months that we've had, the 8 months that are now completed, what has been for us? All right, positives, negatives. Now, what can be? And I think that's really probably the most important thing. Go ahead and dream. Go ahead and think. You know, you talked about revenue. Okay, that's fine. Let's say you work for a big company where revenue is something that you're really trying to take to a different height. Okay, fine. You want to be responsible for $1 million more in sales to the organization of the company. Great. That's fine. It maybe affects your bonus or whatever it is. But what else can be? What else? Is there some program you can put into play, into action within the organization that will help people? Is there something that you want to do? Mike, maybe it's that you want to land 5 more workshops and talks. And they might not be in 2022, but they might be able to be on the calendar for 2023. But you want to get them on board. You know why? Because you're gonna sleep better over the holidays. You're gonna be excited about 2023. All of that sort of stuff. Okay, so that's what can be, and I advise everybody to write these things down. They're important. Now, once you do that, then the third step is, how am I going to make this happen? What do I need to do to achieve this goal? Thoughts?
Well, yeah, and I want to just take a step back, pun intended,
Nice.
to also just call out Rob Pritz had a good comment on the Facebook.
How you doing, Rob?
Yeah, I said affecting others is really what makes things happen. People want to feel heard and understood. And you know what I love about that, Rob, is again, making the key to making things happen is when people are heard and they're understood, they're more apt to be more engaged, more involved, more part of the team, and feel like they actually are part of something that's moving forward, right?
Yeah.
And Kraig, to your point, I agree with all the steps that you had on there when we were talking earlier and thinking about this topic. When you think about the things that have been done or not done, and we often will gravitate to, I haven't done this, or I got this list of things I haven't accomplished or knocked out for whatever reason. This is that time where we can kind of encourage ourselves to look at those steps, right? And to say, okay, what would the steps be? Because we have time. Like we said, we're September 1. We still have time in the year. If there's something that is a priority that you really want to knock out, you still have time. It's going to take discipline. It's going to take being intentional, with your actions and your choices. I think that's the biggest thing for me right now. I'm really having to focus on the choices that I'm making. I sometimes feel like I'm drowning in opportunity, right? There's a lot of things swirling around and I'm the eternal optimist. We can do this and this and that. And I've got to focus my choices. And then to your last point of saying, what are the steps I have to take to get there? I think it's also important to establish a timeline, to be able to say, okay, I want to have this done by this certain date, because if we don't hold ourselves to a date, I know that that's planning 101, right, friends? But at the same time, humanity 101 is that we'll typically, expand the task to fit the time. So if you don't have a date on it, you're just going to let it drift out. So set a timeline on that too.
Timelines are big. They're always big. And I will admit that as the year goes by, look, I'm sure everybody can relate to this. You have the best of intention to do this or that. Now, you and I run our own businesses. So if we want to make big changes, let's say you want to put forth the investment to create a new program, and you have to pay a video guy or a crew to come shoot something. Okay, that costs money. And so you say, I'm going to do this in January. What's that?
It's an investment. It's
right. It's an investment.
Right.
I want to work on my website. All right. I know that that's an investment. And then things start getting in the way and you want to try to do things. And so I think everybody can relate to that. And so the hardest thing, the toughest thing among these steps, that I'm talking about, is to actually do what Mike is saying and commit. That's the first part. Commit to doing it. The what's been, that doesn't take that long. You can write that stuff down, give yourself an hour, but really dive deep into that. What can be? Okay, that takes a little bit more time. You might need a couple hours to think about where you want to go and what you want to do. Now, when you do that, drill down a little bit, because it's very easy to say, I want to do this. Okay, that's fine. But it can't be a generic answer. It's got to be something because if you imagine yourself going into your boss and say, I want to accomplish this, they're going to say, tell me more. Right. And you're going to have the details to go with it. They're not just going to let you implement some program that they don't know how it's going to happen, be carried out, the steps, all that stuff. Yeah. So how will it happen? You really need to dive deep and think about the time, but we have to put ourselves on the clock, if you will. Time ticks. It's already September 1st. I remember us at the beginning of the year doing this program and saying, what are we going to do this year? How are we going to assess what was in 2021? Yeah. Well, here we are thinking we're going to flip this thing to 2023 already. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we have to think like that. Some comments?
Well, no, there are. And, a couple here. So Rob, this is awesome. Rob Pritt saying, he's now leading 350 agents, and just leaning into them and their goals is an incredible gift. I love that. I love that, because you know what, you pouring into them, Rob, is going to return 350 fold, by right. There's no
that one makes me happy. It puts a smile on my face. And Rob knows this. Rob is one of my original clients when he was talking about building a brand and what he was going to try to do. Yeah. And he was very much trying to focus his energy not just on being, in the realty industry, but how could we make him an influencer in that industry? Where could he carve his niche? How could he use his personality, which he has, a big one. And he really has, I don't know what his degree is in, but I think he has a master's in people, and I think that's important in what you're doing. So
without
that's
a
cool
doubt
to hear that.
And then, so Rob, that's awesome. And Elaine, hey, Elaine, glad you're on. She said, these are great for team and department retreats for the last quarter of 2022. I agree. I would even say, though, if it's possible, try to do that, now. Try to do that in September. A lot of the talks that I'm giving now are for companies that are saying, we've got a big push coming, for Q4. Hey, we need a pit stop. We need you to come in and talk to us about, ways that we can really get ourselves geared up for this final push of the year. So I would encourage you, Elaine, if there's the opportunity, even if it's a small group, just to kind of recharge together and refocus and say, what can we do in this last quarter to push together?
Well, and be the leader of that. Be the leader. Be the change agent. So I'm going to put this out there before we kind of move toward the end here. Try to do a power 30 minutes. I want people to think about the idea of being magnetic. Okay, pulling people in, increasing your own energy, and bringing people into your world where you can make a difference. I mean, that's basically what Rob was suggesting that he's trying to do. So think about it from a magnetic pull, and you've got all these people that you work with. How can you do that? How can you bring them in? How can you pull together and make that difference? How can you be the magnet, right? That creates that energy within your organization, within your job, to help people and move in the right direction. I think that's important. That's kind of the thought that I wanted to get out there as we move toward the finish line.
Yeah. So my final thought then on that, maybe to piggyback on it, is saying, okay, if you want to create that magnetism, right, that gravity, we also have to be mindful of our choices. Right. In order to do that, we have to make intentional choices. And I'm a big believer that our reality is really the output of our choices. So if you're not happy with your current reality, then you may want to revisit the choices you've been making to get there, or more importantly, the choices you can make. Right. Because choices are just that. They're a choice. So think about the choices you can make in this next couple of weeks as you're thinking about that final push for the year that can actually change the reality that you're living in. And more importantly, as a leader, that your team is operating and functioning in and thriving into.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So as we drive toward, some action steps, folks,
Yep.
I want you to think about where you can go and what's still possible this year. Don't believe that we're already starting to wind down. No. What's already happened is a bit of a blur, for a lot of us, but we've got this opportunity to keep the thing moving on the track, to pick up our speed a little bit and move forward with clear intention. So with that, Mike, I say time for us to leave everybody with something, and I will let you go first. I'll probably tie it into some current event, as I always do, but I'll let you go first. Your final thought for everybody.
Here's the final thought as we're wrapping up the Power 30. Celebrate you. Just take a moment to celebrate you. Okay. I don't care what you have going on, if things aren't going the way you want them to go, or maybe they're going great, but just take a moment to celebrate you. You are here with us today. You are here with us today. And that is just enough. That's just enough. So
perfect. I love that.
That's all I got.
We don't do that enough. This is a good Labor Day weekend opportunity. You got extra time. Make sure that you do take some time. Pour yourself a drink or spend some time with your significant other, whatever it might be. Sip the coffee a little bit differently and kind of process that. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's my my little final thought. I'm wearing my Missouri Tiger stuff, and tonight, Missouri, Louisiana Tech on a Thursday night on ESPN. That's great. I'm excited about that. Now, having said that, it is college football season. So how am I tying this into what everybody's talking about in keynotes? Okay, think about your favorite college football team. They have spent all year. They had spring practice. They had all year training, and they've been working toward a kickoff over Labor Day weekend and the season that's there. When are they done? They're done in December. Okay. By the time we get to New Year's, right, the bowl games have happened or are happening and their season is done. So how does this tie to you? I want you to look at all the year as you're training, all the time that you've put in to build things. And you probably had some successes. Maybe that was spring ball and you moved up the depth chart in your organization. And now you're in September and it's time to actually get on the field and make it happen. So my challenge to you is, look, all these teams start out 0-0. Okay. The whole thing is possible for them. Where they go is where they go. They might win 8 games. They might win 9. They might win 6, whatever that number is. I'm not going below 6, by the way, for any of them.
Okay.
All right. You have that chance to, as well, have a successful season. And that successful season can start right now. So consider this your kickoff for the remainder of the year right now. Think about all the things that have happened, the training, the effort that you've put in, and now go win and do something that leaves everybody around the holiday season saying, you know what? I want to celebrate them. Thank you for your impact. Thank you for, the entertainment value that you provided us and the season that you just gave us. That's how I look at it. We're always there for another opportunity, to make something positive happen. So to everybody, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And, we always appreciate you being a part of this. Elevating You has been going on for, 60 plus episodes now, over the span of 2-3 years.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. And Mike, I don't know if you've got white pants, but if you've got them, wear them this weekend.
I'm not sure where you were going with that, man. I'm like, what? I don't know. Hey, I just want to thank the community too. This has been great. A lot of great interaction and thoughts and sharing on the Facebook feed today. You all are awesome. And really, this is why Kraig and we do this, and unfortunately not as often enough as we'd like to, just because of schedules. But the fact that you are with us and choosing to invest some of your precious time and energy to be with us and connect with us here. We are so grateful for that. We're grateful for you. So thank you so much.
No doubt. Everybody, Mike Mooney, Kraig Kann, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks so much for the time. And hopefully this has been an opportunity to elevate you along the way. Have a great one. See you next time.
Cheers, everyone.